"Get out of the pool," my mother's voice thundered across the water, slicing through the music and conversations around us. "This party is for respectable family only, not for divorced embarrassments." 50 people turned to stare. Leia froze in the shallow end, water dripping from her lashes as confusion spread across her face. Ollie stood beside me, his arms full of towels that slowly slipped to the ground. Not a single person stepped in. Not my siblings, not any of the so-called family friends, not even those who had once sworn they'd always defend us. Just silence, thick, choking, humiliating. I gathered our things, every drop of water hitting the pavement like an echo of shame. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I wrapped my kids in their towels, and we walked out, shivering, wet, clinging to one another. But the story didn't truly begin at that pool. It began the next morning, when her realtor called. My name is Sadie, and somewhere during my life, I became the kind of person who spoke softly so others wouldn't feel the need to raise their voices. Not because I'm timid, but because I learned early that staying quiet was sometimes the only safe space left for people like me. Growing up with my mother, Evelyn, was like living beneath a spotlight that never shut off. She didn't parent, she performed. Every holiday, every event, every mundane moment was treated as a stage built entirely for her. And the rest of us learned to dim our light so hers could burn hotter. My children, Leia and Ollie, were nothing like the dimmed versions of us she raised. Leia is 8, bright, imaginative, and unfiltered. The world looks magical through her eyes. Ollie is 6, gentle and anxious, always holding tight to my arm whenever we enter a room. They deserve a childhood free of being mocked or downgraded, especially not by their own grandmother. I work as a software engineer. It's not flashy. It doesn't come with designer bags or impressive-sounding titles. But it's steady. It keeps us safe. It pays for our life, our routines, our peace. For years, I let my family assume my life was mediocre because correcting them felt pointless. Let them think simple meant struggling. Let them believe my quiet life meant failure. Peace mattered more to me than convincing them otherwise. My sister, Monica, basked easily in Evelyn's approval, always polished, always agreeable. The golden child who learned early that nodding was safer than disagreeing. My brother, Darren, had perfected avoidance. Conflict slid off him like water, he became invisible whenever drama surfaced. They weren't cruel, they were simply survivors of Evelyn's storms, choosing to stay dry rather than stand beside anyone who got rained on. And then there was the beach house, the place my children adored more than anywhere. To them, it meant sandy feet, warm patios, ocean breezes, and sunset walks. To Evelyn, it was proof of her status. A symbol she wielded like a trophy, something she flaunted as evidence of her success. She never knew, none of them knew, that I owned the house. I bought it years ago and let her rent it for a fraction of its real value. Not because she earned it, but because I hoped that giving her something beautiful might soften the sharp edges of the relationship between us. It didn't. In my own home, the small one filled with warmth instead of competition, I built a life where we moved gently. We folded laundry while telling stories. Cooked simple meals. Shared space without judgment. No forced comparisons. No whispered rankings about who was succeeding or failing. Just us. But no matter how much I protected my children, the pool party made something painfully clear. Evelyn didn't see us as family. She saw us as burdens, something tolerable only until she decided otherwise. That morning, my kids were buzzing with the kind of excitement only children can produce. Leia woke me up already wearing her swimsuit under her clothes. Ollie dragged a bucket of beach toys to the front door just in case. I packed our usual things, snacks, sunscreen, towels, all while bracing myself for whatever shift in mood Evelyn might bring. The drive wound along coastal roads, the ocean briefly peeking through gaps in the houses. Leia hummed to the radio. Ollie kicked his feet, smiling out the window. Their joy softened the knot in my stomach, but years with my mother taught me even perfect weather could turn without warning. When we arrived, the house was packed, more people than I expected. Guests lounged by the pool, children splashed, and Evelyn stood on the patio surrounded by her book club friends, the ones who always tried too hard to sound impressive. Leia spotted her cousins and ran ahead. I followed behind, blending into the crowd without expecting acknowledgement. I didn't even make it to the shade before Evelyn's voice rang out. "Get out of the pool." The world seemed to pause. Conversations cut off. Splashes quieted. I turned toward the shallow end and saw Leia gripping the ladder, her face falling as she realized the command had been directed at her. Then Evelyn's voice rose, purposefully louder, humiliation sharpened into a weapon. "This party is for respectable family, not divorced failures." The words floated over the water, heavy and cruel. My children froze. Leia's cheeks reddened. Ollie buried his face in my legs. 50 sets of eyes were on us. And still no one spoke. Not Monica. Not Darren. Not the family friends who had eaten at my table and hugged my children. No one. I walked to the pool's edge and held out a towel for my daughter. Water trickled down her arms as she stepped out. I wrapped her, pulled Ollie close, and gathered our things. No yelling. No begging. Just silence. We made it to the car before either child spoke. And then, in a small voice that cracked my heart, Leia whispered, "Why does Grandma hate us?" I didn't answer. The truth sat like stone in my chest. I had allowed this for too long. That night, after the kids fell asleep curled against each other on the couch, I sat at my dining table with only the quiet of our home for company. It wasn't a suffocating quiet, it was a decisive one. A moment suspended between what was and what needed to be. I opened the drawer that held the folder of documents I never thought I'd use: property records, rental agreements, the purchase documents for the beach house, payment logs from the management company. Hard facts. Quiet truths. Evidence of a life built with care and responsibility. I laid everything out. The address. The purchase date. The rental arrangement, so discounted it bordered on generosity. All to make my mother's life easier. And she had repaid that kindness by humiliating my children at a pool I owned. My anger wasn't fiery. It was ice cold. Focused. Clean. This wasn't revenge. This was a boundary. I emailed the property management company with the termination clause for month-to-month tenants attached and asked them to initiate the 60-day notice first thing in the morning. The next day, the call came right on time. "We've contacted your tenant. The lease will end as requested." I thanked them just as another call came in. My mother. The spiral that followed, from her anger to her confusion, from family guilt texts to threats to tearful voicemails, unfolded exactly as expected. Everyone had an opinion. But none of them mentioned the pool. Not once. And then came the hearing, the municipal room, the beige walls, the startled look on Evelyn's face when she realized I was seated on the landlord's side. "What is she doing over there?" she hissed. When the officer calmly informed her I was the property owner, something cracked in her expression. For the first time, she was forced to stand in a world where I wasn't beneath her. Her lawyer argued retaliation. I presented facts. Quietly. Clearly. Without rage. And when it was over, the officer simply said, "The complaint is dismissed. The lease termination stands." Outside, Evelyn trembled with rage. "You made a fool out of me," she said. "No," I answered. "You did that yourself." She moved out 2 weeks before her notice expired. I didn't watch her leave. The house booked out at full value within days, and every payment went into 2 accounts, one for Leia, one for Ollie, quiet futures earned from quiet strength. Months passed. My children healed. Even the pool felt different to them, lighter somehow, as though it was finally ours. 6 months later, Evelyn showed up at my door, her voice small. She apologized first to the kids, then to me. I accepted, because forgiveness is not the same as access. My boundaries stayed exactly where I set them. Dignity is not something anyone can give you. It's something you protect, especially from the people who test it the hardest. And if you've ever had to draw a line with your own family, tell your story below. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone.